Well, there's some ugly text messages, and that's it. I don't think anyone learned any more information about Shanna Gardner's involvement, alleged involvement, or non-involvement in this case, other than there were some bad text messages who we now find out were as a result of many of them in jest, taken out of context. And if that's all you have, so what do you do next? You manufacture a case. And I'm not saying that we're at that point yet, but I see very, very potentially harmful things along the horizon, such as having meetings and not recording them, having meetings and not doing police reports, and not disclosing favorable evidence to the defense. As early as yesterday, the prosecutors turned over more additional statements that were allegedly made by KJ at this secret meeting, many of which KJ even denies that were ever said. And KJ also says were taken completely out of context and spun in a direction that was wholly inappropriate. When prosecutors don't have a case, these are the things that are done. And I will tell you what happens next. When you don't have evidence and you have a case like this, the next inclination is to go out and get yourself a jailhouse snitch. So I presume that's being done right now. There's a little shopping that might be going on or might not be. But as a result, what we have done is we are sending a letter to the elected state attorney in this case, Melissa Nelson, and we're going to be, and as well as law enforcement in this case, advising them that Shanna Gardner is represented and they are not to send in any agents of the state to try and go in who are actually trying to make a deal for themselves and trying to better their current situation while in jail to be able to hurt and harm Shanna Gardner in a death penalty case. That's a textbook move, and we are calling them out. And I'm telling you right now, if that happens in the future, you will be able to go back at this moment and you'll be able to know and see that I was absolutely 100% correct. So watch out for that. That's coming next. And you cannot have, under any circumstances, a police officer lying in a court of law, lying to a judge who has to make the critical decision to hold someone while in custody. Everybody forgets Shanna Gardner has a child who is terminally ill. You have this child who may not live, being completely torn away from his mother while she waits. Could be a year, could be 2 years, could be even longer for trial, and for which you're seeking the death penalty. The stakes couldn't be higher. And in fact, the actual conduct couldn't be more egregious. This is not something this community should stand for. When they elected Melissa Nelson, they should have expected her to hold her standards, her prosecutors to a heightened standard for which they can fully work within the public trust. And that doesn't mean violating agreements while maintaining attorney-client privilege materials, for which this court has even acknowledged was poor judgment. And now we have this, withholding favorable evidence from the defense prior to a critical hearing, and then later on, afterwards, doing it again even more. As recently as yesterday, we got more statements that allegedly occurred during the secret meeting that was non-recorded. So, folks, I employ all of you who are here to, we're trying to do our job. We want you to ask the tough questions. Don't take the guided tour. This case is not as simple and as open and shut as it has been laid out to be. You have only heard one side of this case, and what's coming out of it reeks. And I think all of you, I think it's your journalistic responsibility to seek out and ask them, why are you putting on a police officer who's lying on the stand? Why are you allowing that to happen? Why aren't you recording meetings with very important critical witnesses? Why are you not getting these statements completely locked down? And ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you there's a very good reason. And the reason is an obvious one. So I would ask that all of you, and even those who are listening, to seek out and ask these questions and hold them to their level of professionalism. And I can tell you this, it gives me no pleasure to stand here and do this. None whatsoever. I hate it. Hate it with every being, every part of my being. But I will do it. I will fulfill my oath as an officer of the court and as the lawyer who's been entrusted with Shanna Gardner's life. They're not going to get away with lying in the courtroom. We're not going to stop until we seek justice in this case. They're not going to get away by creating evidence. And we're not going to allow that to happen in this case. I certainly hope that if there's any ambiguities, that they clear them up immediately, that they explain why they didn't record that meeting, why they didn't file a police report on that meeting, why Detective Johns is lying about speaking to a person when in fact he actually did, lying as to why she changed her number when in fact she's still to the